Ghostbusters Frozen Empire is the newest entry into the Ghostbusters franchise. And this time around, a new villain comes in, arrives late, gets horny, and finishes quickly. And freezes up New York in the process. Now, I am a fan of this franchise, though I have been a bit mixed of the overall quality of the projects. The first movie is great. I think the second movie is disappointing. The Afterlife was pretty good, but that remake was absolutely terrible. And now we got a new Ghostbusters, and this time around, the Ghostbusters are not in a rut and are not the Ghostbusters in the beginning and become the Ghostbusters again later. No, the Ghostbusters are the Ghostbusters from the very beginning, and they're all the way through to the very end. And they're trying to figure out how to bust ghosts better. They try to create new technology, and they're trying to bring in more people into their group. And unfortunately, some people in New York just want some, take it down. They don't want the Ghostbusters to have anything to do with New York. Especially the same guy that wanted them gone in the first film. And he is trying to get the Ghostbusters closed down again. And the Ghostbusters are trying to figure out this evil entity. And they explain that plot way too much, and that's the main problem I have with this film. It's a lot of explaining about what's happening to the plot, like what I was just doing now. I was explaining a whole lot about the plot, and that's basically what the characters do to you in the second act of the film. That second act had a lot of problems in terms of telling and not showing. We learned so much about the villain and his backstory and what's going on, but still what the villain wants and what we could glean from the bad guy, we still don't get. He's just a generic monster that wants to take down everything. But the villain itself still doesn't feel like he has any character apart from wanting all of New York frozen and to get its revenge. And he is just a boring antagonist. If we just explain this villain's backstory instead of focusing on explaining it, maybe we could get more of his character, more of his wants and personality, see what he is like, see what his relationship is like with this ghost girl who has a on and off crush with McKenna Grace here. And we could have gotten a bit more conflict in that. That relationship would have probably packed a punch, but we don't really get that. It's just a lot of explaining. Thankfully, with most of the other characters, they are pretty well handled. And because we know a lot of these characters already, we don't really need to focus on them as much. The characters from Afterlife are just trying to get through being Ghostbusters and trying to get through a new environment, and are trying to work more together instead of a team, but as a family. And the old Ghostbusters are having a hard time trying to move on from their previous lives. Some are able to move on better than others, but Dan Aykroyd's character is having a very hard time doing so, and you can really tell. And he is the main Ghostbuster that we mostly follow throughout the entire film. He's the one that shares the most screen time with the characters. And that's what I like most about the film. It focuses a lot on the characters and mostly the heroes. But the problem in that too is that there's way too many characters to focus on, and it can be really jumbled all over the place. Plot lines going everywhere, and the movie can feel unfocused at times, which makes the story feel like it's meandering a whole lot. And again, this is the problem that the second act had. I had a good time with the first act. It set it up a neat idea and the characters very well, and it was very funny. That second act was a chore to get through, but once we get to the action, the movie becomes a whole lot of fun. The characters' banter was great, all the performances were really good, the visuals were fantastic, and it was a fun Ghostbusters movie. It's just that second act, it was just a chore, and I just don't see myself rewatching this immediately. I still overall had a fun time. There were still neat moments of action and characters in that second act, but it was just a lot of explaining about the plot, and I feel like it could have cut down a lot of that, focused the pacing and runtime a bit more, have it be more streamlined, maybe cut out a few characters to make the movie feel less bloated. And I feel like we would have gotten a really good Ghostbusters movie out of this. But overall, it is a fun, neat adventure that doesn't subvert anything of the franchise, but provided fun enough entertainment and good enough characters for us to be attached to. Overall, Ghostbusters, and for that, I'm going to give Ghostbusters Frozen Empire a B-. But seriously, Dan Aykroyd's ghost glory lasted longer than the BBC. What the hell? Okay, now to go watch the 2016 reboot, God Help My Soul. Good night, everyone.